Welcome to the boating adventure. Welcome to this series just off the towpath. I think I spoke a little bit too soon a couple of weeks ago when I was getting the swamp duck ready for taking it out for about 10 or 11 days to do a whole load of filming for this series. I did say that there was a storm on its way, but at the time it was supposed to be going sort of northwards, Scotland and that area. But in actual fact, when Storm Babbitt actually struck, it went everywhere. And in this area in particular, it was quite bad. And I know in Scotland, it was absolutely horrendous. And as a result of the storm, about 4 or 5 people lost their lives. So me not being able to take the boat out is fairly insignificant. And also a whole load of people had to leave their houses and sort of remain out of their houses for quite some time, I think. So what I thought I would do today, I can't get the swamp duck out of the marina at the moment. Although the water levels in the marina have stabilised and gone down, I still can't get the swamp duck through the locks. The Sawley flood lock is out of order. It's all padlocked up and you can't go through it. I suspect that the Derwent lock number 1 will be the same. And then in Shardlow there's another flood lock which will be across the canal, protecting the marinas there. The swamp duck isn't too far away from me at the moment. It's just back down this towpath, and it's through Shardlow, down the side of the towpath there, across the Long Horse Bridge, and then down the path at the side of the Trent, and that takes you to Sawley Marina. So I did go a few days ago, before the storm struck actually, and I rescued the bike. Still not sure what we're going to call it, but at the moment I've christened it Bertie the bike. So I've been and collected Bertie the bike, and it's been sat in the back of the car so that when the weather improved I could come out and at least do some filming for this series off the towpath. So as I say, the boat isn't here at the moment, but if I employ a little bit of magic, I am currently at lock number 3 on the Trent and Mersey Canal. This is Aston Lock. And just above Aston Lock there's plenty of moorings on the towpath side there. So if I turn round on this side of the bridge, this is bridge number 6, there's plenty of mooring between bridges 4 and 5, and I often come this way and moor up. It's one of my favourite places for doing some work at the side of the boat, because if I moor up by the towpath then the boat sits quite high up and I don't have to reach down very far to clean the side of the boat. So I have moored up here, stayed overnight. It's very, very quiet, and it's a lovely place to be. One of the reasons that I want to go and film Aston on Trent is that if you come this way on your boat and you're looking for some services, i.e. some shops, you won't find them at places like Shardlow. Although Shardlow is often said it's a major inland port, or it was in its day, it has a few pubs, but it doesn't actually have a convenience store or anything like that. The last shop was a post office on the A6, which it closed down quite a while ago, and I think now it's a cafe. So there isn't anywhere that you can get sort of general provisions. So the next place is Aston on Trent, which is just off the towpath here. So I thought I would go and visit it and just have a look and see what facilities there are. Plus there are some very interesting buildings there. There's quite a lot of listed buildings, and I'm actually at the side of 2 listed properties at the moment. This lock is listed, and so is the bridge. as are an awful lot of the locks and bridges on the canals, which is why it's a difficult task sometimes for the Canal and River Trust to mend them, because they have to mend them in accordance with the listing restrictions. They can't just go and stick any old bit of wood on them. It has to be maintained as it was when it was built, more or less. And there you can see a Canal and River Trust van. I'm not sure where they're working, but obviously along this stretch somewhere. So I'm going to have a little cycle now into the village. Now you can do this in one of two ways. You can either go up this path here next to the van, which takes you up onto the main road, or you can carry along the towpath above the lock to the next bridge, bridge number 7, and then take a right turn over the bridge and up the track, and that will bring you out a little bit further into the village. So I'm going to try this track here for now. I've already cycled along the other one this morning, so I know what that's like. It's very accessible, and I'll just go and see what this one's like too. So come and join me. Okay, so I'm just heading to the church here at Aston on Trent, and you can see it has a fine gateway here. This is All Saints Parish Church, and this was erected in memory of one of the rectors who was here for about 40 years or so, I think. So this gateway was erected in memory of him. When I was looking at the history of Aston on Trent, I noticed that one or two, even the tombstones, are actually listed. They are in memory of a couple of very prominent families who were landowners in the area, and so the tombstones are listed. So this is the one of the two listed tombstones. It's to the Holden family. And by the look of it, there are a whole host of different eras of building that are going on in this church. This lower part of the tower is a Norman origin. You can see that with the Norman arch window, and then as you go up the tower, up past the clock, then that bit there has obviously been tacked on, or it's been redone, and so that's a later addition. Wikipedia describes this as being Celtic in origin, and you can see why they would think that, because you've got this sort of Celtic pattern here. It is believed that this is part of an old preaching cross which may have stood around this area long before this building was constructed, and it's been incorporated into the stonework of the building. So you've got some perpendicular windows on the end of the central nave there, the sanctuary, and you've got these more sort of decorated style. So there's an awful lot of different eras of architecture going on here. Just inside here you can see that the roof of this church has been raised at some point in time, and these windows at the top here have been put in probably to bring in some more light. And if I zoom in, you can just make out the roof line there in the brickwork of the original roof. It would have been a much steeper pitched roof than it is now. So you've got a centre nave with a chancel and a sanctuary, and then you've got a south aisle, and you've got a north aisle, and you just have to look at the shapes of the arches to see that there are different periods of building here. And the typical Norman way of constructing an arch, and the later more pointed construction as things were added on. Quite an impressive tomb here. Must have been somebody really important. There are some nice modern features to this church as well. We've got the altar there in the centre of the church, as well as the one at the top there. There is a small doorway at the side of the pulpit, and I think it goes up some steps to an opening just above the pulpit. So at one time, I think this nave would have been separated with a screen so that you couldn't see what was going on in the chancel. And certainly there wouldn't have been any seating here at one time. The local peasants would have just gathered here. And so this little doorway at the side was a way of going up there and onto the rood screen and seeing what was going on the other side. That's what I'm guessing. This stained glass window was put in to commemorate the same person for whom the lich gate was constructed, and that's a Reverend James Shuttleworth Holden, who was, he was a rector here for 47 years, and presumably that's an image of him baptising the font, which is at the back of the church here. And there he's administering communion, and interestingly, there's a soldier there in the middle, probably in First World War uniform, because Reverend Holden was here from 1844 to 1916. And there is the same font which is pictured in the window. The same reredos which is at the back of the altar table. So at least that's pretty consistent. Just looking at this church, I think it dates from the 12th century with elements from the 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th. And I know that there was some restoration in 1853 and again in 1873. And a nice 2-manual organ. So we'll go and have a look at the rest of the village and see what facilities there are. Okay, so in terms of looking for facilities, if you're on your boat and you're trying to stock up, when you get to Western Road here, on the corner, there is a post office and general stores. And as you turn down Western Road, we'll come to another village store, and we'll go and have a look at that. The village shop, off license, groceries, provisions, hot drinks, freshly made hot or cold cobs and sandwiches, and a selection of wines, beers, in-house cooked meats, groceries. This is an example of an early 18th century listed building in Aston on Trent. So I'm now in the centre of Aston on Trent, and I'm in this building here, which is an old pump house, which has now been converted into a shelter or a bus stop. One of the two public houses, the Malt. Okay, so there's a history board here. Just basically says that Aston on Trent is mentioned in the Domesday Book, and it's called Aston or Aston, which means the East Farm. And it has a rich and checkered history, with much of the village owned by the landed gentry from the 11th century through to the early 20th century. Influential families include Tickhill, Holden, Shuttleworth and Winterbottom. And there's a picture of the lock and the church. And this is Aston Hall, which was a hospital at one stage and is now private residential flats, I think. So I've come into this very, very nice little cafe in the village. It's called Notsa, N-O-T-S-A, and I wonder if you can work out quicker than I did where the name comes from. I'll give you a little bit of a clue by looking at the name in the window there. Any ideas? Drop your answers in the comments below. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this little visit off the towpath and looking at the village of Aston at the side of the Trent and Mersey Canal, and having a look at what's here, what facilities there are. It's worth a trip. Even if you haven't got a bike, it's not that far to walk. So I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I'm going to enjoy this. So thank you very much for watching, and as always, do take care.